Hey everybody, Hoosier Jedi here with another review for you. This time talk about episode 17 of season 2 of Young Justice called The Hunt. First of all, I need to give you guys a quick apology. This video is going up a little later than usual. I'm moving in 2 days, so as you can imagine, I've got quite a bit on my plate. But I've got a little free time now, so let's talk about this episode. I got my notes, I got some water right here, my nice brand new tumbler that I bought. So let's get right into it. Um, Well, the first thing that I want to talk about is that I really like how things are really starting to pay off here in terms of both things that are set up in the short term and things that are set up in the long term. And what's going on with the Reach and G. Gordon Godfrey is a perfect example of all of this. Now we saw when the Warworld showed up, we saw the Reach send out their ships to help deal with the attack on Earth. And in my review of that, I wondered, are the people on Earth going to miss this? Well, obviously they didn't. This is something that was brought up and was resolved within just a couple episodes. But now we're also seeing a serious shift in G. Gordon Godfrey's stance on the Reach, something that's been going on for quite a while now. So again, this is another example of some really good writing on the show. Again, you're seeing stuff that was a short-term setup and then payoff, and then a long-term setup and payoff. You really do, in good writing, you do have to mix things up like that. Now, I think some people out there are kind of going to be a little confused as to what's going on with G. Gordon, and honestly, I actually really like this change in his in what he's presenting to us. First of all, it just makes him seem much more of an interesting character. If he was just somebody who was just firmly opposed to the Justice League and then immediately embraced the Reach and didn't really question when they were caught blatantly lying to people, then really he'd just be some idiot, some basically kind of almost a sycophant, really. By him doing this, by him really calling the Reach ambassador out on the mat on national television, well, that's not really what most people I think really suspected. It's certainly not what the Reach expected. And in doing that, it makes him a much more interesting character. And of course, it certainly gives Tim Curry the excuse to crank the dial up a little bit. And, well, let's face it, nobody does hamminess quite like good old Tim Curry. Now, one thing, though, that I can't help but think about in watching this episode is, was G. Gordon really fooled all this time, or maybe he wasn't? Now, think about this. He was, him calling the Reach ambassador out like that, basically slamming him for lying to the entire planet just after coming off of a press conference with Blue Beetle praising the Reach and, really coming across looking, coming out of that press conference smelling like roses. That's a real serious blow to the Reach's credibility. So what I'm wondering is, though, is this guy, basically, I can't help but wonder. He's a guy with a TV show. TV shows have sponsors. I can't help but wonder if maybe we're not going to find out somewhere down the road that G. Gordon is actually a tool of the light. I mean, it certainly wouldn't be very hard for Lex Luthor to bankroll this guy's TV show. And if you stop and think about it, all that stuff that G. Gordon's been doing, from slamming the Justice League to setting the Reach up for this public humiliation, all of that is the sort of thing that furthers the Light's goals. Now, granted, I'm indulging in a little bit of speculation, not something I normally do, but I can't help but think that this is one of those circumstances where we've been given an awful lot of pieces, and they do fit together if you stop and think about it. But, that's just an idea I'm going to throw out there for your consideration. Now, getting back to the main episode, this, of course, is spent with the majority of the time with us trying to rescue the majority of the team from the Reach's clutches. So this gives us a chance to spend a little bit more time with Arsenal and really kind of get into his head as to where he is mentally. His comment from last episode about how he was never going to be caged again was extremely telling. But here we really get to see that attitude in action, and we get to see more of just how vicious Roy can be. And of course, this is all to really set up for Dick kicking him off the team at the very end. And, Dick is not wrong to do that. His reasons are perfectly valid. This is not, if we take him at his word, and it's certainly not unreasonable, that this would not be the first time that Roy has let his personal demons endanger the whole team. And we even saw him almost get the whole team killed last time around just because he couldn't stand the idea of being taken prisoner. Now, to his credit, Dick does give Roy credit for helping to save the day, and it is true that if it hadn't been for him, the team would be in some serious hot water. But again, I think he was completely justified in throwing Roy off the team. And he even does take the point in saying, when Roy gets his act together, he's welcome to come back. Now, this sort of thing is, very much the classic sort of conflict that you see in superhero teams. The really great teams often have the heroes arguing and bickering and butting heads with each other just as much as them fighting the bad guys. If you've read old issues of Avengers, especially stuff from like the 60s and the 70s, what am I saying? The Avengers comics are really at their very best when this is exactly how the Avengers are acting. Something that was showcased on the show Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes from not that long ago. I finally got around to watching some of that, and that's really solid stuff. But anyway, coming back to Roy, I have to say I did certainly enjoyed the chance to see him, out there being all action movie hero-ish, and I got more than a little bit of a kick seeing him use a grappling hook on his artificial arm. It reminded me of the old video game Bionic Commando. I know there was a remake of that a few years ago, but I never really played it. I've only played the original from the 80s, and I'll say that that was definitely a pretty fun game. Now, moving on. Another thing that I enjoyed was the reference to the little gadget that the Runaways are given by Lex Luthor, being called a Father Box. Father Box is, of course, from the comics. It is technology from New Genesis / Apocalypse, and is actually a fairly new addition to the lore of the DC universe. The technology that could basically do the same thing as the Father Box has been around for a really long time, except it was always called the Mother Box. And I can't remember what issue of the comic it was where they introduced it, but I remember reading the first appearance of the Father Box, and it was a real uh-oh. And it's also one of those things. It's like it makes perfect sense. Well, okay, if there's a Mother Box, why isn't there a Father Box? It's one of those really obvious ideas that it really is actually kind of amazing that it took them that long to get around to introducing. But the presence of New Genesis / Apocalypse technology, well, that adds another wrinkle as to what just might be going on with the light behind the scenes. I mean, let's not forget, we've seen guys from New Genesis and Apocalypse running around causing trouble on Earth. That Intergang was using weapons technology from Apocalypse. So, something to keep in mind, eh? Now, let's see here. Getting back to what's going on with the team. We get to see some emotional, some characterization payoff here. Again, this is more, I think, some of the short-term circumstance stuff. The guilt that Nightwing and Miss Martian are feeling in regards to the team being captured. Now, granted, the guilt stuff with Miss Martian has been going on a lot longer than the guilt stuff with Nightwing. But again, this is a real nice combination of the long-term and short-term payoff. Jeez, I'm having trouble talking today. And I like how it's done. It's short, all right? They don't spend a whole lot of time, pissing and moaning about how they feel. And I even like how Megan really refers to them treating the whole thing as kind of a guilt-off, which is really a pretty apt description of what's going on there. And it's that realization that I think really kind of provides both Megan and Dick with that kind of kick in the butt that they need to really just sort of stop feeling sorry for themselves and actually do something about the problem. And while a certain amount of angst is always just a a necessity in a good superhero story. At the end of the day, nobody wants to see superheroes sitting around and moping. What people want to see is the heroes dealing with their problems and then going out there to kick bad guy butt. I mean, that's what good superhero stories do. So you do have to, of course, be true to the characters' emotions, to the consequences of their actions. But again, this is not something that you want to spend a whole lot of time. Letting fester is really, I think, the best way to put it. And let's see here. We also get to see a little bit more of Deathstroke in action. And I have to say, I even enjoyed the fact that Lex Luthor actually referred to Deathstroke as a bishop in his game rather than a pawn. It's a very Lex Luthor kind of thing to do. And as I believe I've said last time, we're getting a really nice rendition of Deathstroke here on the show. We also getting to see him being a pretty formidable character over on Arrow. So, this is really pretty much a good time to be a fan of Deathstroke. Now, let me see here. Yeah. We also get to see another nice, a really enjoyable villain versus villain fight. I love stories that do that. I absolutely love it when, circumstances conspire to have the bad guys fight each other. And Black Beetle versus Mongul, yeah, that's a pretty solid one. And I do have to give Arsenal a lot of credit. The idea of turning Mongul loose on Black Beetle rather than the team who he knows Black Beetle can take, really, really smart thinking there on Roy's part. And speaking of conflicts between, major conflicts, can't talk. We also get to see some straight up good guys versus good guy action going on here. Now, not in the terms of physical combat. We're not dealing with the old meet over a misunderstanding and then fight and then team up. The show has more respect for its audience than that. But we do get to see a pretty profound philosophical clash between the Runaways and the Young Justice team, which of course is what spurs the Runaways to kind of go off on their own. At the end of the day, the Young Justice team really are, to put it bluntly, a part of the system. They are the Junior Justice League, however much they might resent that label. And, the Runaways do have some pretty legitimate complaints as to how they were treated. I mean, it is true. They were basically kind of tossed off in the middle of nowhere and were being treated like lab rats. But on the flip side of that, the Young Justice guys are in a much better position to go out and actually make a real difference in the world, to accomplish something. I mean, without the aid of Lex Luthor, all the Runaways were really able to accomplish was going around causing vandalism in a small New Mexico town. So, there is both positives and negatives to the way both teams are approaching this. Of course, there's really nothing too good about taking sponsorship from Lex Luthor, and I like how once it's really pointed out to them by Arsenal just how bad of a dude Lex is, the Runaways don't hesitate to turn away from him. Although I will say the way that Lex just sort of like, yeah, I mean, I used you for my own ends, but I held up my end of the bargain. Why are you mad? I mean, it was such a perfect expression of Lex Luthor's ego and just the way he thinks. It's almost funny. But again, also a really nice scene there. So, of course, this leaves the question up in the air of what's going to happen with the Runaways now. But, they've got Arsenal on their side now, and he's a pretty darn resourceful fella, and one who has connections and most likely access to Green Arrow's money. So I think the Runaways will eventually land on their feet, probably in the not too distant future. Next Sunday AD, there was a guy. Alright. Let's see. And with that said, folks, I think that covers everything that I really have to say this time around. Honestly, Actually, no. I would like to say though that I really would like to see us get back to the plot going on with the Justice League. I think that's something that needs to be touched on again. Now I have the feeling that this is all going to drag on long enough so that the Justice League can have their big return to help save the day at the last minute at the end of the season moment. I mean, I think we've all pretty much guessed that's where this is going to go, but even though we did check in with him not too long ago, I think that story really needs to start moving forward. It just really seems somewhat implausible that the Justice League are really going to stay away from Earth this long. Now, granted, I know we're dealing with a very vastly compressed time frame, but I just don't have a good feeling about so many of Earth's most powerful heroes being gone for so long under such circumstances. Now, again, I haven't really been paying that much attention to the actual dates as they're happening in the story. I'm just talking about how I feel emotionally in regards to what's going on with the story. So, well, there's that. Anyway, folks, that's all I got for you this time. As always, please comment, rate, and subscribe, and of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Hoosier Jedi. Until next time, take care and have a good one.